Hello guys and welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today we will be talking about Toni Kroos as well as the Real Betis game. But first I want to start with thank you guys for waiting. It's been quite a bit long time since we last did a podcast. It's just we've both taken a little break since the last time, but we are back ahead of the Champions League final, and we'll be pumping out a few podcasts for the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. But I think we've got to start with one thing, because that's been the big news over this last week, is that Toni Kroos has decided to retire. And it's difficult to put into words because you don't know. I spent practically the whole of this year expecting Toni Kroos to extend beyond this year. From what Fabrizio Romano told us, it was practically done. The renewal done, and so we spent most of this year considering Toni Kroos that he was going to be here next year, and Modric was going to be the one who was going to leave. But the complete U-turn has been taken. Toni Kroos has decided to retire at the end of the season, past the Euros, and he's just played his last game at the Santiago Bernabeu, which he played a good game. He's decent enough, but you can't put into words how good Toni Kroos has been for Real Madrid over these last few years. And every year, it's become a bit of a trend now. Every year we're going to have to lose someone, lose a player of this significance to our team, to our club, to the history of this club. And every year it just gets worse because it hurts a little bit more. And Toni Kroos has been such a fantastic servant, and especially with the season that he's played, which in my opinion, he's got two tournaments to finish off. He's got the Champions League as well as the Euros. If he wins both of those, I think this could go down as Toni Kroos' best ever season as a Real Madrid player, and extended even further to his whole career. I think he's been terrific this season, and we'll talk a little bit more about Toni Kroos' career as a whole. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the initial retirement news?
Yeah, of course, in the moment I was shocked about it because the reporter was on last month that he would have been continued for another year, and of course he's been playing at a high level, so of course you would expect him to continue, you'd want him to continue, but then you'd have to look at the fact that he always wanted to leave at the top. Last season, maybe if we had won, he would have left as well. If I'm being honest, this season, maybe last season we ended it out the League or Champions League. Maybe he wanted to end on at least winning one of those trophies. So he's not having one of his best seasons, one of the club's best seasons in the 21st century. If you would have told any Madrid fan that when we lost Benzema that we would end on 95 points, scoring the most goals in the league, we wouldn't really believe it, because at the start of the season, before we went on that tour in the USA, it was a bit gloom, if I'm being honest, in terms of Madrid, but, we ended up winning. Kudos to the team for that. I think maybe Toni wants to leave on a high, and maybe he doesn't know what's going to happen next season, all the transfers. Maybe next season Ancelotti decides to play more energetic midfielders. We could cater for the fact that Mbappe and Vinicius maybe isn't defending much. You don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. All of that could be maybe a factor in his mind, and this is maybe one of the best times, to retire, and of course playing in his home country, for the title would also be an amazing accomplishment. So for me, I understand his decision. It was shocking, but I do understand.
Yeah, I think we've always known that Toni Kroos isn't going to be one of those dudes who floats around, just sticks around just for the sake of sticking around, going to America or going to Saudi, or even just going to German third division or something like that. He was never going to do that. But I felt like he had a little bit more left in him. Even at the top level, he had a little bit more left in him, and it is really shocking news because at this age, 34, not many people would have expected Toni Kroos to be playing at such a high level. But in my opinion, he's been the best midfielder in La Liga, and I can extend that to say, in my opinion, he's been the best midfielder in the world this season. And I think it just shows how how much of a classy player he is. Going out at the top, deciding. Similar to how Zizou did it in 2006. It is very very sad news, and I think we're gonna have to. Real Madrid are gonna have a lot of problems trying to replace him in the future because it is one of those skill sets that you just cannot replace. But yeah, I'm more than shocked at this. But if we to run over Toni Kroos' achievements for Real Madrid. 4 Champions Leagues as a Real Madrid player. If you extend that to his Bayern Munich career, he's won 5 as well. 4 La Liga titles, 1 Copa del Rey, which that just shows our record in Copa del Rey's. I believe 4 Club World Cups, 3 UEFA Super Cups, and it just shows you how much he's provided in every single one of those teams. He's been the common denominator alongside some other players like Luka Modric, like Dani Carvajal. He's just been so fantastic for us over these years. He's been the stalwart, and if you recall at the start of this season, it was him that was going to have to sacrifice this spot. If we recall the first game of the season that we played at Athletic Club and San Mamés, we played that midfield forward, that midfield diamond. We started with Tchouaméni, with Camavinga, Valverde, and Bellingham as our midfield 4. And many people thought that this would be a transition year. This would be the transition year to say goodbye to Toni Kroos. But he worked his way back into the squad. He made himself the number 1 player on the team sheet, and he made himself undroppable in every single big match. And it just goes to show how important Toni Kroos has been. The fact that in 14-15 he was seen as the replacement to Xabi Alonso, and even in 23-24, the season before he retires, he's seen as undroppable, and he's seen as probably the first name in the team sheet. So what are your thoughts on Toni Kroos' career as a whole? Because it is remarkable how he has been.
Yeah, of course. It's really difficult to put into words. It's honestly something that I didn't expect that I would have to say this season. And of course, it's something that you didn't expect because, like you said, he's still maybe the best midfielder this season. He is having one of the best seasons a professional footballer can have. From being honest, his playing style is so unique. Normally, I remember that quote that Vicente del Bosque said about Sergio Busquets, saying that you won't really recognize, I can't remember the specifics of the quote, but it's something like you won't really recognize the greatness of Busquets. If you see the game, you don't see Busquets, but if you see Busquets, then you see the game or something like that. I think with Toni Kroos, it's much similar to the same. It's more or even better because everything goes through Toni Kroos, like Casemiro said. He decides everything, how fast the team play, if the team plays fast or slow. That's just something that every player can have in big games. He's so calm, he's so composed, he can control any game. I was looking at maybe a lot of opinions, and the biggest opinion that jumped out at me was one where they said that at other clubs, Barcelona and Manchester City, the plan is to control the game. At Real Madrid, the plan isn't to control the game. There isn't a specific tactic that's set out to control the game. But Toni Kroos just naturally does it because he is just naturally brilliant and calm. And on these big games, when the team is under pressure, he's the one on the ball along with Luka Modric. He's the one on the ball that's deciding everything, that's making the team feel calm. It's just difficult to put into words exactly how important he is to this team. One of the best players in the world, and the player with the most unique profile, in my opinion. In my opinion, he is. If he wins the European Championships, that's every trophy ticked off he has competed for. He has never not won a trophy that he competed for. And that would be one of the best achievements, And I'm happy that football is now starting to recognize his importance. And like you said, every time we, I don't know, win a championship, or every year we keep losing a player, and it's a bit disappointing because every year we are expected to take a step forward. We always lost a player after winning like the La Liga or after we win Champions League. We always lost a player, and that player is such a key player that it affects us the next season. If you look at it way back in 2017 when we won the double, we lost James and we lost Morata, two key players, and Pepe as well. And the replacements were young and they couldn't really replace them effectively in the squad, and we needed much depth. We didn't improve the starting 11. Then when we won in 2018 we lost Ronaldo, we didn't replace him. We won the league in 2020 and we lost, yes, I think it's 2019, 2020 we won the league. And we lost so many players, James, and we lost Bale, who gave us numbers, and then we lost Benzema. But of course, we didn't win anything important last season. But the year we won the Champions League, we lost Casemiro. So, and then of course the team kind of suffered a bit, but of course we bounced back a year later. I know we're going to bounce back, but I believe that next year is going to be a bit more difficult. And it's going to be a bit more difficult to get out of the pest that City might utilize. If we play them next season, it's going to be more difficult to control games, to evade pressure. So I believe Arda Güler might be playing deeper, Bellingham might be playing deeper, Ceballos will have a bigger role. But Ancelotti did say yesterday that Bellingham, the closer Bellingham is to the goal, the better for us. But Modric might get more stats because of how important it is to control games. You never know, but we cannot replace this guy. I think I'm just keep going on and on. I think I'll just stop with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was the famous quote, I think it was by Zidane. What Barcelona does in 40 passes, Toni Kroos does in one. And we've seen so many instances of that over the years. The one that comes immediately to mind is the one in the 2021 Champions League, where he plays that ball over the top for Vinicius Jr., who rounds Alisson and scores. That's the first pass I think about. But then you think about all the how many times do you reckon we've seen Toni Kroos make that switch to Dani Carvajal over the years? I reckon I've seen that a solid 1,000 times at least. It's stuff like that where you take it for granted, because Toni Kroos does it with such ease. He does it; it's automatic, and we're not going to see that again, because as much as I think Fede's improved a lot in terms of long passing, as much as I think Aurelien Tchouameni is a fantastic passer of the ball, you just can't get any automatic than Toni Kroos. I think it's just impossible to replace that, and I don't think right now is the right time to have the discussion about where he ranks in terms of midfielders all time. For me, I think he's the greatest German midfielder, of all time. Maybe he's number 2 behind Lothar Matthäus, but for me, he's number 1. And then in terms of all time, you talk about all time midfielders. I think Modric is ahead of him. I think Zizou's ahead of him. I think Xavi's ahead of him. I think Iniesta's ahead of him. But then beyond that, you talk about Pirlo, you talk about other guys, and I think Toni Kroos is right out there, to be totally honest. And if you talk about who's had the most importance for this Real Madrid team over these last few years, I think Toni Kroos is right out there. And like you said, Euros, I want him to tick it off. I also want to see Ronaldo win it. I also want to see England win it. So there's a lot of allegiances I have here, but it's a really, really difficult one. And I think Carlo Ancelotti's going to have a huge headache coming into next season, because removing Toni Kroos from this starting lineup is a huge problem that he's going to have to deal with, especially with the fact that we're going to have to fit in Mbappe somewhere, we're going to have to fit in Endrick in the rotation, we're going to have to fit in Arda Güler in the rotation. I think Arda's proved that he can definitely play more minutes next season and potentially take this Jude role where he's scoring goals. But I think you start with Jude Bellingham dropping a little bit deeper. I think that's the first bit you start with. And then in terms of Toni Kroos, you're gonna have to pick up the slack elsewhere. I think that's just the pure the reality of it, because I think you can't replace it with one player. I think the options aren't there in the transfer market to go and get. I think Joshua Kimmich is probably the closest guy you can get to Toni Kroos, but even that, you don't want to start Joshua Kimmich in every game, and especially if you're going to have to play him right back or wherever. I think that would be a bit too much of a headache, so I think you're going to have to play other guys and try and hope that they, as a collective, you can try and replace Toni Kroos. Which is what you've been trying to do with Fede Valverde over these last few years, is trying to improve his long passing, and he definitely has improved his long passing over these last few years. But yeah, it's a huge loss for us next season. It's something that we're going to have to try and replace. And it's going to be a huge headache for Carlo Ancelotti. But for me, I think number 8 next season and going forward, I think for me that should be Fede Valverde. I think Toni Kroos has pretty much announced it. Vinicius has announced it, so we know that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, Toni Kroos' legacy is going to be remembered for years. We're going to have that conversation about where does he rank amongst the all-timers. And, I don't think this is it for him at Real Madrid. I think, he's smart enough to become the manager of Real Madrid one day. Potentially he can become the Bayer Leverkusen manager after Xabi Alonso, following in Xabi Alonso's footsteps like he's done already. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think he's someone who's going to maybe take his time. Maybe he might become a pundit in Germany. Maybe he might have some sort of football show, maybe speak on that and World Cup matches.
He has his podcast already, doesn't he? So
yeah, so he might continue that. I believe that. I think we spoke about who is the one coach or the one player who has the capabilities to become a coach in the future. And we did say it was Toni Kroos because of how intelligent he is, similar to Xabi Alonso, I guess. One of the most unique players. So I guess, he seems like he can help young players as well. He also has an academy. So, I can see him becoming a coach. I can see him becoming a top coach. So in my opinion, I can definitely see it.
Yeah, and then we talk about Germany as well, because this summer going into Euros, they've obviously got Julian Nagelsmann as their coach now. We'll talk a little bit about Barcelona in a second as well. I think that's just come to mind as well. But Julian Nagelsmann's obviously the new coach of Germany, and I think that midfield of Toni Kroos, Gundogan, Florian Wirtz, other guys coming in, obviously Robert Andrich, who could play well as well in that midfield, Angelo Stieler from Stuttgart. All of these guys are really good midfielders, and I think that could be a potential huge part for this Germany team. They've obviously underperformed massively over these last few years. I think a lot of that part has to do with the fact they don't really have a striker who's trusted post Miroslav Klose. I think, although I do think Niklas Füllkrug is a good striker, I think he maybe not have the quality for that. But they do have genuine quality players, and I think Toni Kroos generally has a chance at these Euros to try and win it, because Germany have a good side. Maybe not as good as England, I would like to say, or France or Portugal. They've got probably, in my opinion, the best manager at this Euros in Nagelsmann. And I think for me, I've got to say, I think Germany have got a really good chance of winning the Euros this summer. I think Toni Kroos his return, especially. I had a really good thought about this, where I thought Toni Kroos would try and replicate what Zizou did. It was play the last season at Real Madrid and play that Euros at Germany before hanging it up. I think this could be that type of tournament where he absolutely produces a masterclass and gets to the final. Maybe not headbutts the opposition, but plays an absolute masterclass at the tournament and maybe wins it as well. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on Toni Kroos and his potential Euros success that's coming this summer?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be a difficult one for me to pick, because of course I don't live in that region like you, so you would want England to win. But for me, once a Real Madrid player wins, I'll be quite happy, whether it's Modric, whether it's Bellingham, whether it's Toni Kroos. For me, or maybe even Cristiano winning another one. I'd just be happy to see a Madrid player win. I don't have the strong connection maybe with the French national team. Maybe like I do because of course Toni has been with us for long. Luca has been with us for a long time. Ronaldo has been, of course, Madridista's favorite player for a long time. So we would want these guys to win. Maybe you would want Bellingham to win, especially if he doesn't win the Copa and you want a Madrid player to win the Ballon d'Or. Once a Madrid player wins, I'm going to be happy because even in big tournaments, I support Madrid. I remember in World Cup 2018 when in less than 24 hours Cristiano scored. And Toni scored and Luka Modric scored for their respective countries. I think that was one of the best feelings. Kylian Navas played an amazing game. So once a Madrid player wins, I'll be happy. But when Toni Kroos announced his retirement, I don't think that I don't think that he will be recognized as great as maybe Luka Modric or something like that. And I know that if he wins this tournament, that's going to totally switch the dynamic of this. But we tend to forget that he was key in Germany in the World Cup. He scored 2 goals in the semi-final against Brazil. He has won every trophy, and I would just love to see him finish with this trophy. With Cristiano, he's past his best. For me, I don't really follow up that much, even though I would recognize what he does. I think I'm more interested in maybe a Madrid player winning. So for me, I would maybe want Toni to win it. Croatia isn't going to win, if I'm being honest. I don't see them winning it. Maybe England could do it. But of course, the media in England is going to go, might be so, over the top if they win that for years to come. Yeah. It's football, and of course, every team would be happy to win it, so maybe once a Madrid player does it, I'm happy. But for me, seeing Toni leave with that championship would be one of the best feelings for him, for his career, and it would be definitely what he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take this about England, but I do think this has to be the year. I just don't think that they're physically. I don't think there's been a better England squad as a whole. Maybe more quality in older squads like with Lampard, with Gerrard, and then previous to that you could talk about 66 as well. But I don't think there's been a better squad as a whole. In terms of chemistry, in terms of the cohesion as a unit. I don't think there's been a better squad than this current one, especially with all the talent that we've got. There's no excuses. I expect nothing but Euros win. I think I was more sympathetic towards 2018 and other Euros failures where it just fell short, especially in 2021. I felt a bit more sympathetic towards those teams. But this time around, there's no excuses. I think you've got to win it this time. I don't think that only France, I think, has a better squad than England. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about this Ballon d'Or, all this Ballon d'Or talk about Bellingham.
But before you continue, I think you guys are weak in the full back, on the left back to be specific.
Yeah, 100%. But I think you'll probably play Trippier at left back, and I think that'll mostly cover the issues. But yeah, I mean, it was funny we're talking about Ballon d'Ors and stuff when if Vinny will win Copa America, but we all know if Messi wins Copa America, that's Ballon d'Or wrapped up. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, you look at Toni Kroos as the Germany star man. In my opinion, he is the star man of Germany, and I think as a result, if Germany win this Euros, I think they could I think Toni Kroos has a real opportunity to win the Ballon d'Or. But I'm not sure which one. Is Ballon d'Or the one that's spread over the calendar year, or is it the one just for the season?
I believe they are now doing Ballon d'Or for the season now. That's what I think. That's what I've heard. I'm not too sure, but I believe it's just for the season now, and not for like the entire year.
Okay, so yeah, that should give Toni Kroos a real chance of winning the Ballon d'Or. But that's all for a later chat. I mean, if we quickly move on to the next biggest news that came out this week, Barcelona sacked Xavi, which it really did come as a shock for me, because I just didn't expect that, especially how much Laporta chased Xavi. I think this is a real scummy move from Laporta to go after Hansi Flick, especially when he gave Xavi he kept on chasing after him. And the reason why I found out this earlier this week, it was even more scummy. I just didn't understand it when Barcelona said they were gonna struggle, or it wasn't even struggle. It wasn't even those harsh words. They said they're gonna try and compete with Real Madrid, but they know they have financial limitations. And you know they know that they've got even bigger problems this summer. So that's a huge problem for Barcelona. And then they know that they've got these financial limitations, and somehow Laporta's got these problems with Xavi saying that. As I think for me, it's completely scummy from Laporta to go behind Xavi's back and go and find Hansi Flick and give him a contract while Xavi's given his turned back on his decision to leave at the end of the season. I think this is a completely scummy move from Laporta, and I think as much as I think Hansi Flick is a better manager than Xavi, I don't think Hansi Flick is a better manager for Barcelona right now, and we're going to find out next season. Maybe they got a completely new manager overhaul, but I think right now Barcelona is completely funny to see, because this is just a complete scum move from Laporta to go behind Xavi's back, especially when he just said the truth about Barcelona's situation. He just said the truth, nothing else. He said that Barcelona don't have the financial abilities of Real Madrid to go and sign whatever player that he wants, and Laporta took that as an insult and went and sacked him. I think that's completely ridiculous, and we'll see what happens next season, because now we've got to go compete with that Hansi Flick led Barcelona, who, I really do rate Hansi Flick, as many people know, and I just think they don't have the players, and I don't think they're going to have the ability to sign the players that Hansi Flick is going to want. So, guess we'll find out. How this Hansi Flick led Barcelona team could play out, but another manager for Barcelona that Carlo Ancelotti is going to have to face. We'll see what happens, because we saw what happened when Barcelona played the High Line in the Supercopa final. Vini and Rodrigo absolutely torched that thing, and we'll find out what happens when Mbappe is added to that front three as well. So, Barcelona, enjoy Hansi Flick while you still where you go, but yeah, I wouldn't expect that to last too long. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the Barcelona situation right now?
Not much, if I'm being honest, because with Barcelona coaches in general, no matter how they do, how excellent they do at another team, you have to be careful. We have to look to see how they would perform at the new club, similar to Ten Hag at Ajax. He was excellent, but then of course he wasn't as effective as everyone thought he was. So I think we'll have to wait maybe after the first few matches and analyze how the team plays. I think maybe it's difficult to really tell, because we know what he does, but of course we have to wait a bit to analyze exactly what's going to happen, because each coach would have their own ideas, but when they come into a team that we can't get the players that they want, and when things are not working out, they tend to try new things. But I think we have to wait a bit and analyze what happens, before we, make a proper analysis, because we honestly never know. Football is such a strange sport, and of course I would agree with you in what you have said so far. It was a weird decision, to go back on their word with him. I don't think it's the biggest issue, and of course each coach would be different in what they do, and each president or sporting director or CEO, whatever you call it, would of course, have their own way of running a team. And for me, I don't think, of course, it would have been disappointing if something like that happened to Zidane. So if I place myself in that shoe, I guess I can see where that's going. So yeah, I understand that how some Barcelona fans would feel that it's a bit disappointing. But it's football, and I believe that they're still going to do well next season. I still believe we are the favourites to win, but of course, in my opinion, it's going to be a new change in Barcelona, and they're going to be a better team, if I'm being honest. So it's not something I would have wanted, but at the end of the day, we have to look at what we can do, and I think we have the players and the squad to, of course, win La Liga again next year.
Yeah, I mean, going back to back is proven to be a challenge for Real Madrid. I'm gonna say it. If there's a season to do it, it's next year. But I've said this every single season that we've won the league.
Yeah,
So
we said it every year. Most of the funders every year would say we had a sequence, but it never happens. So let's see what happens.
yeah, I mean, it's just funny because somehow this team just can't go back to back. It's got to happen at some point. It's just got to happen, and I think it's got to be next year. But you never know. I think Barcelona maybe going to have a transition year next year. Gavi is going to be back, and I think Gavi will play extremely well in a potential Hansi Flick Gegenpress team. But otherwise, I mean, Pedri, I just don't see fitting. A 35-year-old Robert Lewandowski, I don't see fitting in that mold. I don't see guys like who else? I think maybe they do work. I think Rafinha, does he press well? We'll find out next season how well
he works hard, so I think so.
Yeah, okay. I think I agree with you. I think Rafinha does work hard. I think he will work hard. But you know, they've got holes. They've got holes in their team, and I guess we're gonna find out because Real Madrid are gonna play Barcelona in pre-season, and Barcelona win that game because they always win in pre-season for some reason. So that's that. I mean, there's not else much we can say about that situation. But you know, we'll find out what Barcelona do in the transfer market because they got extreme financial limitations in terms of the salary cap. So they got to sell before they buy. Unless you're Laporta and you find new levers to pull. But let's talk about the Real Betis game quickly. It was a 0-0 draw, pretty dull game, apart from the fact that Toni Kroos, it was his final game. We weren't great. I thought we didn't really defend really well. We got away with one with Betis had a goal disallowed late in the first half. It was fairly disallowed in my opinion, but you know, it really didn't matter. No, it didn't affect both teams either. You know, it didn't affect the result or the outcome of the season for Betis or anything. So it was just a pretty dull game. Vinny had a few chances, but overall, it didn't really affect anything. Courtois I thought had a good performance. He had a couple good saves. But he was subbed off. Kepa played his final game for Real Madrid, and I do want to commend Kepa. I think he's been a good player for us, and I think the hatred towards Kepa I think is a bit unwarranted. I think he's been a fine player. Maybe he's not been as good as Lunin, but I think he's been a fine player for us. He's helped us on the sidelines, and he's just been a good teammate for the players. So yeah, I'm being happy with Kepa, and I think he deserved the final 20 minutes. But I think Courtois starting confirmed that he's going to play the Champions League final, which, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think morally it's the wrong decision because Lunin's been deserving, but if we see how Courtois has been playing, it looks like he's back to his best, and so you've just got to put out the best player that you can put out, and I think that is Thibaut Courtois, unfortunately for Lunin. But apart from that, you know, Bellingham did look a bit sluggish. I think the whole team looked a bit sluggish as a whole because they haven't really played much over these last few weeks, but I expect them to get up for the Champions League final because it's a final and the motivation completely changes. This was just a fitness test for the players, and I think, you know, overall they weren't great, but who cares? It's the final game of the season and there was nothing on the line. So what are your thoughts on the Betis performance as a whole?
Yeah, I would stick with the goalkeeping because I think that's the main talking point. I think Courtois was good. I believe that some people exaggerated maybe the saves that he made. It was typical saves that he should be making, because if it had gone in, it would have opened up another debate on whether Lunin should start the final. But I believe that, honestly, I wanted Lunin to start because I wasn't sure of his level, but his level has been okay. I think that maybe some of the silent points that Ancelotti's thinking about is maybe some of the mistakes that Lunin has made. Of course, he's a backup goalkeeper, so it's not like there's a bad mistakes. Every goalkeeper maybe less than goals and they should be saving. I will look at maybe the 2 goals he conceded against Barcelona. I believe he should have done better there. Of course, and he was a bit weak when challenged in the air. Sometimes I think Dortmund could could take advantage of that like they did against PSG. So having quarterback is maybe something that he's thinking about in addition to that. Maybe the goal he conceded against City. So yeah, he could have done better on some occasions, but it's not really his fault. I believe that Courtois is just the best goalkeeper in the world, and I think that maybe if he makes one of those mistakes in the Champions League final later on, it's a one-off game. It could maybe cost us. So of course you have to back Courtois in that situation. To be the best goalkeeper in the world. I think they're marking on him being the best goalkeeper in the world. In the final. So I believe that it took me some time to accept it, but after maybe a couple of weeks of analyzing, I believe that is the best decision for the team and for winning the game, because Dortmund is such a weird team. Especially on set pieces, they can beat you there. So I believe that starting Courtois is the best squad, in my opinion. And one more point on the last game of the season. I would have loved to see the score as well been on the field. He's injured, but I would have loved to see him been on the field for that last game of Toni Kroos, because his score was the one who said, please give us another day. In his comments, that could have been good to see that, but we didn't, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Isco. He deserved to go to the Euros, but he's obviously been ruled out now, so it's a sad end to a fantastic season from him. He was truly that was classic Isco back again. Hopefully he's back next season and back and continues his form. So yeah, that is it for today. Like I said at the start, a couple more podcasts coming this week, and there will be some more in the coming weeks as well. So stay tuned for that. But that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Gracias, Toni Kroos. It's been a joy to watch him, and it was the last time we'll ever see him in the Bernabeu. We've got one more game to go. That could define his Real Madrid legacy. Thank you, Toni Kroos. But that is it for today. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.